He says, all the Upanishads are cows. The son of the cowherd is the milker. Partha, the calf. Pure intellect, the enjoyer. And the supreme nectar of Gita is the milk. This verse is glorifying the text. First he glorified the previous two verses. He was glorifying. Is it loud enough? No, there's no volume. The Upanishads are the cows, and you need the milker to get the milk. The son of the cowherd. The son of the cowherd, that is Krishna. He is the son of the cowherd. He is the milker. Partha, the calf. Because, explain, as we go into the verse, you will know why Partha is the calf. Pure intellect, the enjoyer, and the supreme nectar of Gita is the milk. Now this verse is glorifying the text of Bhagavad Gita. First he glorified Vyasa, then he glorified Krishna, now he is glorifying the Gita. The Upanishads are the cows. Why the Upanishads are the cows is because, what is an Upanishad? Unless you are brainwashed to believe that Upanishad is the highest literature. Without the brainwashing, you read the Upanishadic literature, it will look nothing will be impressive in that book. Because head or tail you won't understand what he is saying. Not only that, there will not be any philosophical development of thought like how it is done in the Gita. There will be volumes of literature, volumes of poetry. In and through that poetry, there will be a statement of experience here. There will be a statement of experience there, and you need to have lot of evolution to catch those messages. Why it is the cow is because the milk is spread all over the cow. The milk is spread all over the cow. But then you can't access it everywhere. You cut the neck of the cow, you will not get milk. You will only get blood. Even though it is there, you need someone to. Even though the milk is there, you need someone to milk it, extract. That man who extracted the message of the Upanishads is Krishna, the cowherd, and Partha is the calf. Why the calf is because the calf is placed in front of the cow, not too close, not too far. Previously they used to do that. They stuff it with they stuff it with that, and they place there is no calf there. It's dead and gone. Just the skin is there. They put that and they keep the calf right in front of the cow, and it starts yielding milk. Because the cow yields milk not to you. We are abusing it. The cow is yielding milk for the calf. Similarly, Arjuna is the calf. Why Arjuna is the calf is because he happened to be there for Krishna to speak. If Arjuna is not there, all of a sudden Krishna will not say, "Oh, Sunday morning let us all assemble." He will not start Gita. Adallam we only will do. Krishna will not do Krishna will not do all that. He needs a calf. He needs a calf means that there has to be a questioner. Without the questioner, philosophy has no meaning. The whole philosophy has no meaning nowadays because there is no questioner. You have to give the question and you have to give the answer also. That's where the philosophy today looks very, very different. It has lost that quality because the quality comes through the quality to the philosophy comes through the questioner. That's where it's always the question and then the answer. The invocatory prayer is said and the teacher waits. If there is no questioner, class is dissolved. Next day they will. That's the tradition. Ippo adallam we will not do. If we ask questions, we will not ask any relevant questions. We will only ask all irrelevant questions. How to avoid floods in the future? Now, how we will know how to avoid floods in the future? We don't know how the flood came now. We don't know how the flood will come in the future also. Irrelevant questions will come. Therefore, without giving any chance for anybody to even say, chanting mudikarathukkulla we start the discourse. There's no need for any calves and all. Why he is saying Partha the calf is because the questioner brings out the knowledge. The quality of the question brings out the depth to the knowledge. Per se, the enlightened master has nothing to say. You go to the enlightened master and say, please leave a New Year message. He has no. Per se he has nothing to say. Or if at all he says, the depth is directly dependent on the depth of the question. The depth of the question is dependent on the depth of the questioner. What is the depth of the questioner? The intensity, the thirst, the intensity of the search. The thirst brings out a wonderful, the thirst of the student brings out the wonderful philosophy. In the case of the Upanishads, the thirst is direct. That's where the Upanishadic questions you will never find a big discourse by the disciple and then question. The disciple asks the question direct and the answer starts. Bhagavad Gita is slightly different. What is the difference? The disciple gives a discourse first. The disciple gives the discourse first and then says what? And then says, see, after giving all the discourse, the absurd question is to ask what? Tell me what I should do. That is the. So you find a different level of discussion in the Gita and you find a different level of discussion in the Upanishad, because in the Upanishad the thirst is the direct. So when I say direct means the Upanishadic seeker has the courage to leave the world behind completely. He has the courage and left the world completely. Didn't even bother what happens to. But if I leave, what will happen to my father and mother? What will happen to my wife and children? There was no botheration about anything. The question was so disturbing, he just. Therefore, he also has no time to talk about any other issues of life. Now, in the case of the Gita, the case of Arjuna, the difference of the Arjuna is a type where there is no direct thirst for neither enlightenment nor the master. He is using the master's wisdom to overcome his He is wanting to use the master's wisdom to overcome he is using the master's wisdom to overcome the pettiness of the petty problems he wants to solve, and he is using the master's enlightenment. Therefore, what Krishna did, keeping Arjuna as the calf, he gave out the entire message, even though half the time Arjuna wasn't even prepared, even though half the time he wasn't even listening. In that sense, he said, Partha the calf. He's just standing in front, that's all. Who's the enjoyer? Who's the enjoyer? He says, pure intellect is the enjoyer. Enjoyer means who's using that milk. The calf is standing there looking at the cow, and who's enjoying that milk? The pure intellect. Dhi means intellect. I have said this many a times. The Sanskrit word Dhi means intellect. And Su, Bhu, all these are adjectives. It has one meaning. Both Dhi comes from the root Dhi. That's why in the Gayatri mantra he says Diyo Yona Prachodayat. Dhi means intellect. Here he says Sudhi. Sudhi means pure intellect. What is pure intellect? Intellect is pure when it is no more agitated about the world. Intellect is pure when it is no more agitated about the world. What makes it not get agitated about the world? It has understood the real value to the, what is the real value of the world, it has understood. Therefore there is no agitations. Agitations arises when you have a black market value. When you understand the real value, there is no agitations possible. Agitations arises only when you have a black market value. The intellect is confused. What is the confusion? What is the confusion of the intellect? How to balance this? It's the confusion of the intellect. There is no balance. Either you are spiritual or materialistic. That's all. There is no combination of little bit of spirituality and little bit of materiality and all. Either you are this or you are that. The buddhi, the confusion is an assumption. What both can be managed. Yeah. Both can be. You can sail in two boats at the same time. Two drivers driving a single car. Yeah. Four drivers driving the car, now what will happen? One driver, it becomes very difficult. Two drivers driving the single car. The pure intellect is the enjoyer. Who enjoys the Gita. Enjoys means receiving the actual benefit. Who receives the actual benefit? Not Partha. Even though Partha was there listening, who gets the actual benefit? The pure intellect. The pure intellect receives the benefit. What is the benefit? The supreme nectar is the milk. The milk. Who gets that milk? The enjoyer, the pure intellect, the enjoyer has access to the milk. The cow. Cow takes in the grass and gives milk. You can't put a grass into a machine and bring milk out. Yeah, that's why we have made cows today as a machine. First they tried, okay, something if we can develop and put the grass and milk can be extracted. No cow is necessary. But then you can't do that. The cows take in the grass and gives out the milk. and you gain vitality and strength from drinking that milk. Though milk comes from the fodder, இல்லையா? மாட்டுக்கு என்ன வைப்பாங்க? என்னப்பா? பேட் வேர்ட்ஸ் எல்லாம் யூஸ் பண்ணக்கூடாது இல்லையா? புண்ணாக்குன்னு என்ன அர்த்தம் இல்லையா? மாட்டுக்கு என்ன வைப்பாங்கன்னா யூ ஷுட் சே கிராஸ். யூ ஷுட் நாட் சே. You can't get milk from the source directly. You need something to, you need a source from who can extract it and give it. Why you need that source is because by yourself you are incapacitated. By yourself you are incapacitated, therefore you need a source. What is the source? Upanishad is that. Very difficult is to get, very difficult is to directly derive the message from the Upanishad, because in Upanishad he is not bothered about, you go with any worldly issues, he is not bothered even to, he is not even bothered to answer. Number one. Number two, the style of Upanishadic teaching. You know the great Saint Tapovan Maharaj. Quite a few studied under him. Very difficult to study. Very difficult to study with a man like him, because he wakes up in the morning and you do not know what he is going to do. He will wake up in the morning and he will start walking, and you have to walk along with him. From where he will go? Alwarpet to Laskarnara. From Gangotri to Yamunotri. If you know what Gangotri and Yamunotri is, he walks. When anybody goes and says, I want to learn under you, he says, only condition is you repeat the question again, you are out. Because I have no time to waste repeating the, இது ஒன்றும் சண்டே கிளாஸ் கிடையாது இல்லையா? அப்படியே 100 years நடத்துறா கூட சேம் கொஸ்டின் and the same answers and nothing happens out of it இல்லையா? He is saying it's not like that. You repeat the question again, you are out. Number 3, you can't ask him, Ayo, I missed, can you repeat it again? Recording la not allowed. You can't record in the, even if I miss here, வீட்டில் போய் கேட்டுக்கலாம். You can't ask him to repeat again. That's the style of the Upanishad. Why? Looks so cruel, looks so heartless, looks extremely arrogant also. We will think like that. That's why they don't come and talk to us, because first they have to prove their noble intentions to us before they. The disciple, the teacher has to. Today the situation is where the teacher has to prove his noble intentions first, then the disciple decides whether to the disciple is choosing. The student, there is no such, it's a different situation. Why the shift? Why the shift is because the thirst for liberation. Except liberation, nothing else matters. To such a person, different kind of training, and whatever was spoken to such a student, that literature is called Upanishad. You follow? To such a student, whatever was spoken, that literature is called Upanishad. In the Gita, he strikes a balance, like Krishna striking a balance. He speaks on the highest. At the same time, he tries to address Arjuna also as an individual. Therefore, the volume is, you have 700 verses of the Gita. Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad has only 7 mantras. Even before you finish chanting, the text is over. Mandukya has only 7 mantras. Isavasya has 18 mantras. Of the 18 mantras, 7 mantras is repetition. Same mantra he repeats. So for all practical purposes, he has only 11-12 mantras. That's all. Mundaka Upanishad, supposed to be one of the biggest Upanishads, has only 64 mantras. And you go to a Upanishad like Brihadaranyaka, it doesn't look like it won't even appear like Upanishad in the first place. You understand? It is there, but we are not able to extract it. Why? Because the thirst. Because of the thirst. What is the thirst? What is the thirst? Thirst for liberation. That's all. He is not interested in anything other than liberation. To such a man, whatever was spoken is called Upanishad. See, the thought of death itself is so frightening. Yeah. And Nachiketas had the courage to go and have a dialogue with Yama. He had the courage to have a discourse with Yama and telling Yama, please answer my question first. He had the courage even to tell Yama. That boldness. The seeker is one who is bold. The worldly man is a coward. The worldly man is a coward. A seeker is bold. It's a rule. The worldly man is coward. Only a seeker of truth can be bold. The worldly man is a coward, because ignorance is the essence of a worldly man. A man where ignorance is the essence, he will be living in fear. A man living in fear is a coward. That's all. Very simple. How do you know that he is how worldly man is a coward? A worldly man's basis is ignorance, and ignorance creates fear. Man living in fear has to be a coward, and the whole humanity is full of cowards. In this group, you find one or two bold souls having the courage to jump out and say, what is the truth? That's very symbolic. Satyakama Jabala. I have said this story many a times. Satyakama, the boy, goes to the teacher. He was teaching in the Gurukula. He goes, prostrates to the teacher and says, please teach me Brahma Vidya. And the boy and the teacher said, to which Gotra you belong to? Tell me which Gotra you belong to. Now what difference does it make which Gotra? But the teacher said, which Gotra you belong to? Tell me that first. That's the first time Satyakama heard the word called Gotra. So straight he goes back to the mother and says, I went to that man asking to teach Brahma Vidya. He is asking some irrelevant question, what is Gotra? And please tell me to which Gotra I belong to. Mother said, I don't know which Gotra you belong to, because when I conceived you, I was in service, she said. oldest profession. The oldest profession is that. She said, when I conceived you, I was in service. So I really don't know which Gotra you belong to. Now what does it mean? What is he actually saying? Prabhakar, what is he actually saying? I am a prostitute. I don't know who your father is. That's all. Go and tell that man that your name is Satyakama, son of Jabala. My name is Jabala. You are my son. Go and tell that man that. Straight he comes back to the master and repeats exactly what the mother says. The teacher stood up from the seat. The teacher stood up and said, you proved that you are a seeker of truth. You proved that you are a seeker of truth, because only a seeker of truth can be bold enough to speak the truth. What is speaking the truth? What is speaking the truth? That day you can boldly say, I don't know, you are speaking the truth. That's what is speaking the truth means. That day you can boldly stand up and say, I don't know, I am ignorant. Take me out of this ignorance. You are speaking the truth. Nobody speaks the truth like this. Everybody says what? I know. See, to whatever extent I know, எனக்கு தெரிஞ்ச அளவுக்கும் you don't know anything na adula what is there to grade in that. To whatever extent I know, இதை விட slightly refined. உங்க அளவுக்குலாம் தெரியாது. அது கூட dangerous level of ignorance இது. That is the ignorance. This man who is living life in ignorance will live in fear, he'll be a coward. The seeker alone is bold enough to speak the truth. That is the pure intellect. He can derive the message. The calf is not doing that. The calf is simply standing there. The calf is not doing that. Whoever does that, they enjoy the nectar. What is the nectar? The milk. What is the milk? Bhagavad Gita is the milk. Bhagavad Gita is that milk, and only the pure intellect can enjoy that milk. What does that pure intellect means? Purity of the intellect is directly dependent upon the awareness of ignorance. Intellect becomes pure to that extent you are aware of your ignorance. 20% aware of your ignorance, your intellect is pure. Don't say 80%. Don't say, 80%. It is 20%. You follow? And what is ignorance? What is ignorance? Correct. When you think, you know, when you actually do not know. You arrive at the conclusions without bothering to going through the process of inquiry, experimentation. You quickly arrive at the conclusions without bothering to inquire and verify it. This is called ignorance. And this ignorance will be like a calf standing in front of Gita, maybe by-hearted the whole Gita, maybe repeating the whole Gita, maybe giving a discourse on Gita also, Sunday class madri. But nevertheless, the nectar, who gets it? The pure intellect. What does pure intellect mean? The intellect which is aware of the Ignorance, not knowledge. Because all knowledges are borrowed. Wisdom alone is yours. Knowledge is always borrowed. And you can't be wise with borrowed knowledge. You can't be rich with borrowed money, can you? Today everybody thinks they are rich because they have only borrowed money. Loans from bank. இல்லைன்னா திரிபுரா சிட்ஸ்ல இருந்தாவது லோன் வாங்கணும். But nevertheless, nothing is yours. Knowledge is like that. Knowledge means that which is borrowed from the another source. How does the knowledge turn into wisdom? How does it turn into wisdom? First you inquire. The process of inquiry is the process of manana, reflection. Then you experiment. What is experimentation means? Experimentation means practicing the karma bhakti jnana yogas. You inquire, you practice the karma bhakti jnana yogas, the information that you gather turn into wisdom. Then that is the pure intellect who will be able to enjoy the milk. In that sense he says the glory of the Bhagavad Gita. The Upanishads are the cows, the son of the cowherd, Gopala Nandana. The son of the cowherd is the milker. Partha is the calf. Who is the enjoyer? Sudhi, he says. Sudhi means pure intellect. Sudhi means the pure intellect. He is the enjoyer. Enjoyer means he is the enjoyer. Take a simple example. The man gives a whole day seminar on the ill effects of smoking. Assume here is a man who is giving a whole day seminar on the ill effects of smoking. Every 1 hour break he goes and he has a smoke. Who's the enjoyer? Listening to this man, 10 fellows might quit smoking. Who's the enjoyer? He is only the calf. Who's the enjoyer? The pure. That's all he's saying. Who enjoys it? Man who is ready to go through the process of inquiry and experimenting. Two things has to be done. Inquiry and experimentation. What is experimentation means? Experimentation, what can you experiment? Experimentation means practicing karma bhakti jnana yogas is the experiment. Inquiry is the process of manana, reflection. When both is done, the pure intellect doing this becomes the enjoyer, enjoying the milk. This is the glory of the text Bhagavad Gita. Verse number 5. I salute Krishna, the divine son of Vasudeva, destroyer of Kamsa and Chanura, the supreme bliss of Devaki, the universal Guru. The title given to him is the Jagat Guru. He is a universal Guru. Universal Guru means what? Universal Guru means what he spoke is applicable at all periods of time. What he spoke is applicable at all periods of time. He is a universal Guru. Time Guru na, he spoke that which is applicable only to that period. That's the difference between a Jagat Guru and other preachers. Other preachers speak to the group, which will not be applicable before, which cannot be applicable later. A Jagat Guru, Krishna, the Jagat Guru, Krishna is glorified further. See, every now and then he will glorify Krishna, because if you have encountered a man like Krishna, how can you not glorify? How can you miss that man? If you have encountered a man like that, you cannot stop glorifying. And every other verse he keeps glorifying. He keeps glorifying Krishna. Attributes of Krishna: divine son of Vasudeva, destroyer of Kamsa and Chanura. Kamsa and Chanura, they are bent on killing. Kamsa was bent on destroying Krishna, and Krishna destroyed Kamsa. That which tries to destroy you is your ignorance, and you need to destroy that. That's all. Sitting inside you, it destroys you. That's where Kamsa is. Who's Kamsa? Actually, who's Kamsa? His uncle. Correct. His mama. Yeah. Do you know that the word uncle is older than the word father? The word father came much later. Mother, uncle. Then comes father. It is all different. Why that uncle? Because when people were living in a commune, everybody is an uncle. That's why even today they say, anybody you see, they say, yeah, uncle, driver uncle said, yeah. Swati, she will tell me when she was in school, now even now she is in school, Appa the auto driver used to take her to, Appa the driver uncle said, yeah, why uncle? The closest relative then the next to the mother is the uncle, and that uncle was out to destroy him. The closest to you, sitting inside you, is all out to destroy you. What is that? Ignorance. And you nurture it, nourish it, keep it alive, just to make sure that it is carried over to the next Janma also. And Krishna destroyed that Kamsa. Who is out to destroy him? He is all out to destroy, and he destroyed. How he destroyed? Sat on him and suffocated him to death. No. How Krishna killed Kamsa? How Narasimha killed? Who did Narasimha kill? Hiranyakashipu. That you know. How Mahabali killed? How Vamana killed? How did he kill? Stamped him. How did Krishna kill Kamsa? Rama killed Ravana. It's very interesting how every demon got killed by one avatara. Rama killed Ravana. How did he kill? How did he kill? One after the other. The head was, as a warrior, Rama was chopping the head off. Every time the head is chopped off, another head gained. And a warrior should not hit below the belt, and Rama has to hit Ravana below the. Where Rama hit Ravana to kill him? Where? Where? You don't know. சும்மா கெஸ் பண்ணக்கூடாதா? If you know, you should say, no, illanna. You should say, I don't know. Vijay? Huh? I don't know. Correct. Rama hit Ravana in his navel. The umbilical, the cut. It's very symbolic. How each and every avatara killed that demon. It's very, very symbolic. Very, very interesting is that. And how did Krishna kill Kamsa? How he killed? Vedanta we will not know. Puranas we will not know. Nothing. How did Krishna kill? Just suffocated him. Just suffocated him, that's all. Just strangled him. Just suffocated him. Ignorance. It has to be destroyed. You destroy it in such a way that it doesn't reappear. We also kill. Actually we don't kill. We just put it in hibernation and it comes back. We put it in hibernation, it comes back. And whenever it comes back with greater intensity. Destroyer of Kamsa and Chanura. The supreme bliss of Devaki. Devaki is the mother. And why the supreme bliss of Devaki? The Vedas, the Upanishads find its fulfillment in Krishna. That's why they are the. What is the bliss of the mother? The son. The mother finds fulfillment in the son. Son or daughter doesn't matter. The product. What is the product? The Vedas look at Krishna and they are so supremely satisfied. Why? Because he is the what? Is the what? Product. Where all other products are useless. This man is worthy. Worthy of what? Worthy of saying my son. Today, no son or daughter is worthy of saying my son. Adike we keep saying my son. Yeah. My daughter. Imagine Devaki saying my son. What is the difference? The product, the essence, the son, the daughter, doesn't matter, son or daughter, the product of the mother, the essence, the life force, and Krishna is the true representative of what sannyas is. Krishna, the lone true representative of what religion is. Why Krishna alone is the true representative of what sannyas is? While all other sannyasis gives you the notion that you have to go and hide yourself from the world, he stood, he lived in the world. And how he lived in the world? Flute and peacock feather. How he lived in the world? Sannyas. He is the true sannyasi. Who is the true sannyasi? Krishna. And two things he is able to do. What? One is he was able to be in action. Another is blissfully doing action. That's all. The true beneficiary of Vedanta, the true beneficiary of Vedas will have this quality. What is that quality? Sannyas. And what is sannyas? Two qualities, two things. What are two things? One is action. Another thing is bliss. Singing, dancing the way into action. We don't sing and dance the way into action. We moan our way into action. He'll always used to say, Leon, stand at 8 o'clock in the morning, Monday, 8 o'clock in the morning, stand in Marine Drive and look at the people going to office as though they are going to a funeral. How many times he has said, he used to say, go and see, and he will make us to see also. He will make us to see. Literally going to a funeral. There is action, but there is no bliss in action. There is no that joy that they bring into action. The joy comes only when action is stopped. Actually, you can't stop action. You enjoy doing useless action. So, carefully understand. Inaction means useless action. It's not zero action. The word inaction, people understand it as zero action. Zero action is not possible because the law of life says you can't remain inactive for a moment, for a split second you can't remain inactive. Then what is inaction? Sir, adu tani concept is don't mix and confuse us. Yes. Then what is inaction? Inaction is nothing but a set of useless actions. Why that useless action? What does useless action means? The child watching television from morning till evening is an action, correct? The child watching television from morning till evening is an action, but you will not want the child to do that action. Why? Because it's a useless action. So therefore, either you can do useful action or useless action. Tamas means useless actions. Rajas means useful action but agitation. Full of agitation. Sattva means useful actions with joy. And whoever knows how to do that, he is the true representative of the knowledge. So, Devaki looking at Krishna finds that supreme bliss. Why? Because in Krishna the fulfillment of Vedanta has happened. Therefore, Krishna is so much glorified. Why he is so much glorified is because he never ran away from life. He never ran away from action. While all avatars, there are so many avatars of the Lord. Krishna alone is called Purna Avatar. And whoever has said Krishna is Purna Avatar, he should have been another Krishna. Then only he can say that. Whoever has called him as Purna Avatar. While all other avatars have something lacking. What is something lacking? The whole of Ramayana, you will never see Rama laughing. Have you ever seen Rama laughing in Ramayana? He looks so serious all the time. He looks so serious. In the Ramayana they say Rama laughed only once. In the entire Ramayana, he laughed only once. When he saw that Kaikeyi is mentor. Who's Kaikeyi's mentor? Kuni. Yeah. Hunina, what does it mean? Half bent lady. Crooked lady, nartham. Yeah. When you follow the crooked lady, what will happen? Intellect. Crooked intellect. That's what it is. Symbolic. Rama, young boy, looked at her for the first time, looks very. He laughed. And Kuni said, you laughed at me, no, I will take revenge on you for this. It said, Rama laughed only once and never in his lifetime he laughed after that. Krishna, never is there a dull moment in his life. Always cheer, always after. One man who took the seriousness out of religion is, when all other brought seriousness into religion, Krishna took it out. Can you imagine Jesus Christ laughing? You will not want to worship him after that. You will know, because Jesus Christ is always permanently nailed in the cross, bleeding for eternities. You can't see a Christ. But then, who's Krishna? In this group of people, where they have made religious a serious affair, Krishna came and said what? He brought cheer, he brought music, he brought dance, he brought joy. That's sannyas. He brought cheer, he brought music, he brought joy, which is sannyas. The supreme bliss of Devaki, not the attachment of Devaki to Krishna. The mother looking at the son, she's so happy. Why? Because in Krishna the whole Vedanta was made practical. In Krishna the whole Vedas made practical. In that sense, the supreme bliss of Devaki, the universal Guru, Jagat Guru. This is the best title that you can. He is a Jagat Guru, universal scepter. The teacher can communicate to whatever extent he has understood. Teacher can communicate to whatever extent he has understood. There are teachers who can make mathematics looks very, very easy. There are teachers who can make an easy subject like mathematics looks so complicated. Clear? Therefore, a teacher can teach to the extent he has unfolded. To that extent he has unfolded, to that extent alone he can communicate. A Jagat Guru is one who has unfolded 100%. Therefore, for eternities he becomes the Guru. Why? At any point of time, if anybody wants to unfold the self, the Gita is there for him to derive the benefit. In that sense, Krishna is called Jagat Guru. To whatever extent you have uncovered, to that extent alone you can communicate. It's a law. In any branch of knowledge, the law is the same. That's why I gave this example. There are teachers who can make mathematics looks very, very easy. You study under that man, you feel maths is very easy. There are teachers who can make mathematics looks so complicated. And when that man said, I'm the maths teacher, I said, hey, you becoming the maths teacher is The worst maths cannot deteriorate any further, I said. Yeah. He has become the maths teacher and principal to the school where I studied. So didn't know anything in maths. That fellow doesn't. I said no. 3 days before the exam he will come home. Yeah. My grandmother gets very irritated. Unnare vandu padcha enna, she will say. Yeah, why can't you guys come before? Why do you have to come at the last minute? Nee ellam padichu vechirpa, edella important questions, just teach that. You teach only that, you can score 70, 80. That fellow becomes a maths teacher, na? What will happen to maths? Yeah. I asked him, hey, evlo per da pass pandranga maths la ni. I teach using your technique, he said. That's not technique, that is cheating, I said. Not a teacher or a student, you cheat. But teacher, you don't cheat. It's cheating. See, what is cheating? You know the question paper, what is the total value of the question paper? Not 100. 170 marks. So you have to score, out of 170, you have to score 100, correct? That's how you should calculate. When you calculate the question paper is not for 100 marks. The total value of the question paper is 170 marks. Out of 170 marks, you have to score 100, na? It's very easy to score. Out of 170, you can score only 14, na? ரொம்ப pathetic. Out of 170, you can score only 2, 5, na? Suicidal, yeah. So I said, see, 170 marks, other 4 chapter utta kuda you can still score. You will still have 110 marks and you can still score 70, 80 easily. Yeah. This is how people score. So when anybody scores 90, 95, we know how they score. You understand that? He is not a good preceptor. He is not a good preceptor. Who is a good preceptor? He can teach to whatever extent he is wise. If he is completely wise, any branch, he can make it simple. He used to always think how calculus can be made simple. If somebody can make calculus simple, or if somebody can make trigonometry simple, now that man knows. Algebra anybody can make. And most of the time you ask the students, what do you leave in choice? Now they always say probability, matrices, algebra la fulla padichitom. Calculus and trigonometry is left. Now if you leave trigonometry, if you leave calculus, now there is no mathematics after that. Correct? There is no mathematics after that. But then, who's a good preceptor? A person who can teach to that extent he has unfolded. Krishna is a Jagat Guru. Why he is a Jagat Guru is because he has unfolded it completely. Therefore, whatever he spoke is applicable at all periods of time. This way, millions of commentaries have come on Bhagavad Gita, and still million more will come. Why? How can one book have so many meanings? One book having so many meanings, and no two commentaries agrees on the same. Means what? To whatever extent he has unfolded, to that extent he can extract from the Gita. And whoever has given that Gita, that is Lord Krishna, has to be Jagat Guru. Therefore, Krishna is worshipped as Jagat Guru. Therefore he says, Krishna is Jagat Guru, the supreme bliss of Devaki, the killer of Kamsa and Chanura, the son of Vasudeva. Son of Vasudevan சொல்லிட்டு supreme bliss of Devaki இல்லையா? Son of Vasudevana, normally what it should be? Son of Vasudevana, then you should say supreme bliss of Son of Vasudeva. Na, logically speaking it should be supreme bliss of எவ்வளவு வாட்டி கேட்கறது? Son of Vasudevana, logically speaking it should be the supreme bliss of Vasudeva. Son of Vasudeva, logically speaking it should be the supreme bliss of Yashoda, not Devaki. Correct? 10 வாட்டி கேட்டான். 10 times, right? It should, logically speaking it should be the supreme bliss of Yashoda, not supreme bliss of Devaki. Why Vasudeva? Vasudeva is the man who encountered Krishna first. Who encountered Krishna? Who? Yeah. He is the first man to encounter. Devaki wasn't there. And who encountered Krishna? Who encountered? Vasudeva. Correct? Who took Krishna out of? Who took Krishna out? Who took Krishna out of the jail? Supreme bliss of Devaki. Now Devaki didn't experience any bliss at all. Who experienced the bliss? Who experienced the bliss of Krishna? Because when Krishna came back to Devaki, Krishna was already a all the bliss was experienced by Yashoda. Bliss was experienced by Yashoda. But then why Devaki? When she came back, when Krishna came back, how he came back? How he came back? That's the bliss. What is the bliss? What is the bliss of the mother? What is the bliss of the mother? Finding fulfillment in the child. That's where, if you carefully see, whatever the achievements of the children, the identification the mother has, the identification that the father has. Do you realize there is a difference between the two? Whatever identification the mother has, whatever identification the father has. The identification of the mother is so complete. She actually feels as though she has attained it. Father says, okay, but idu kuda jaasti alla, I have done. Father always says what? I have done more. The fulfillment that the mother finds. What is the fulfillment? What is the fulfillment? The fulfillment of the boy, Krishna. And what is Krishna? Symbolizing the essence of Vedas, symbolizing the essence of Vedanta. What is the essence of Vedas and Vedanta? In one word. That's where sannyas. So another word for Vedanta, he says, in Vedanta treatise, he says, another word for Vedanta is renunciation. There is no Vedanta minus renunciation. And Krishna is the perfect. Krishna is that perfect renunciate. What has he renounced? He has renounced the sorrows. He has renounced the miseries. He has renounced the ignorance. What have we renounced? What have we renounced? Balasubramanian. We have renounced knowledge. We have renounced joy. We have renounced bliss. That's where when the mother looks at us, she says, clear. The mother looks at us, she will say what? Unworthy child, you know what the mother will do? Huh? Unworthy child, you know? Yeah, what what a mess you are. What a mess you are. And Krishna is not that. Huh? Verse number 6. The battle river with Bhishma and Drona as its banks, Jayadratha as water, with the king of Gandhara as blue water lily, with Salya as shark, Kripa as current, Karna as breakers, with Ashwatthama and Vikarna as terrible crocodiles, Duryodhana as whirlpool was indeed crossed by the Pandavas, with Keshava as the ferryman. All that he is saying is what? See, all these people that he is Bhishma, Drona, Jayadratha, Shalya, Kripa, Karna, various forms of trials and tribulations in life, that's all. Symbolic. Various kinds of trials and tribulations that you go through they are the ocean. You go through the trials and tribulations. And if you have a very good boatman he can safely cross you from this end to the other end, the shore of mortality to the shore of immortality. Who can ferry you? Krishna did that. Who are they? See, all these are names of the great soldiers in the Kaurava camp. They are the great soldiers. Bhishma and Drona as the bank. Banks in நம்ம அடையார் river bank மாதிரிலாம் கிடையாது. Real banks where the water can never flow, because they are so strong and solid. Unless you kill these two, there is no way that Pandavas can win. Okay, you enter the water, at least bank at least swim panni we can escape. You jump into the water, now who is there in the water? Jayadratha, the king of Gandhara. Who is the king of Gandhara? Shakuni. Shakunina is a great warrior, not like what we see in the the way that we see Shakuni in the movies, he looks like as though one-eyed man, always looking so crooked. He's a great warrior. Shalya as the shark, Kripa as current. Kripa is the Kulaguru, Dronacharya Kripa is the Kulaguru of the Paurava clan. Dronacharya refined that art. One is you have ordinary Guru, and then you have special Guru, specialist. Kripa is the Kulaguru. Dronacharya came later to refine what? And Kripa himself is a great Acharya. Karna, another great warrior. as great as Arjuna in warfare, as great as Arjuna himself. Ashwattama, the illustrious son of Dronacharya, who is a Chiranjeevi by himself. And Vikarna, who is Vikarna? Who is Vikarna? Of the 100 brothers in Kauravas, one lonely dharmic fellow is Vikarna. Only lone dharmic fellow is Vikarna. That's where when Bhima kills Vikarna, he apologizes to him. Says, I have taken the vow that I will kill all the sons of Kauravas, all the Kauravas I will kill. I have taken that vow. Therefore, I have to kill you. But Vikarna, I am so sorry that I have to kill you, because this is such a terrible war. Why we got into this war, I don't understand. Because this war is getting rid of great souls, where like Bhishma and Drona and Vikarna, like you, has to be killed in what a pain it is to kill such great souls. This is the actual apology of Bhima to Vikarna before killing him, because he is the lone dharmic fellow of the 100 Kauravas. He is the lone dharmic fellow and a great warrior by himself. Idallendalam escape ana Duryodhana is there as a whirlpool. You go closer to him, he will suck you in. That's where viciousness kitte pokudadu. The old proverb says, devils rush in where angels fear to tread. Duryodhana is that he is a whirlpool. Viciousness is that you will not know how and when you get sucked in, but then after that you have no joy. You will be dead. And that's why he says Duryodhana as the treacherous whirlpool, as their leader. Duryodhana is standing there as the treacherous whirlpool. Who is Duryodhana? Symbolic of viciousness. You go closer to viciousness, you will be sucked in. That's where the seeker, in the initial stages, he is so careful about the environment that he creates around him. He is so careful about the environment. He is so careful about so many things in the initial stages, because the world, the viciousness is so, it just sucks you in, and you won't even realize that you are sucked in. These dreadful obstacles the Pandavas encountered symbolizes what? The manifold challenges that one faces in the world. The manifold challenges that one faces in the world is represented by these great warriors. Those who surrender to Krishna can overcome these obstacles with ease. Those who surrender to Keshava, Krishna, can overcome these obstacles with ease. What does it mean? The philosophy of the Gita helps them to surmount the challenges of the Gita, challenges of the life. The philosophy of the Gita, you surrender to Gita, what happens? The challenges of life you can easily cross, because Krishna is the boatman ferrying you. When Krishna is the boatman ferrying you, you don't need to have any doubts at all. You don't have to have any fear. You don't have to go on keep asking him, what? You don't have to go on asking him, what? Will we reach? You are sure, no? நீங்க சொல்றதெல்லாம் okay, but sure work out ஆகும்ல? It will work, no? It will work, no? You have not taken, you have not surrendered. So whoever has this, surrender to Krishna. Krishna means the philosophy of the Gita. That's where when I started Dhyana Slokas I said teacher and the teachings are one and the same. Meera kaadu pothikkonga. Teacher and the teachings are one and the same. They are not different. Surrendering to Krishna is surrendering to the teachings. Surrendering to the teachings is surrender to Krishna, because the teacher and the teachings are not separate. Therefore, to surrender to Krishna means surrendering to the philosophy of the Gita. What is surrendering to the philosophy of the Gita means? Ready to reflect, ready to experiment with it. You will be safely moved from the shore of mortality to immortality, from ignorance to knowledge, what he calls as from bondage to liberation, from bondage to liberation. Therefore he says, all these people, the battlefield is described as fierce. Why it is fierce is because obstacles. Life is very challenging, sir. Abdina, what does it mean? Lot of obstacles you are facing. Life is very smooth. No obstacles. This day is very smooth. Whole day you are fast asleep. Nothing. Yeah, that's all it means. Today is a very full of the day full of challenges. You are moving from, you are in that current. What is that current? Bhishma and Drona. Jayadratha, the commander. Karna, the great warrior. Vikarna, the righteous man. All these led by the treacherous whirlpool called Duryodhana. But Krishna made it look so easy. The roads are full of potholes. A good driver makes you not experience it. Bad driver, you will be hitting the roof. Correct? Krishna is a very good driver. He takes you from mortality to immortality safely. Therefore, don't doubt. Simply surrender. That's all. We'll continue.